Hi everyone. Welcome to our international students panel for today. My name is Anna Maria and I'm a second year doing biological natural sciences at Cambridge. Um, I'm from Greece and I'm also the junior combination room or JCR international students officer, and I'll be chairing this along with Paula.
Hello, I'm Paula. I'm a second year studying human, social and political sciences at St. John's. And I'm also the president of the Junior Combination Room or JCR. Right, so I think, as a side note, I'm from Spain. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the Q&A box or leave them in the chat. And we're just gonna go through some pre-submitted questions, but we'll answer follow-ups if necessary. So the first question we have is, well, the first set of questions about deciding to apply and applying to the UK and St. John's specifically. So the first question is, how did you decide to apply to uni in the UK, and was it a big decision? Vishal, I don't know if you want to start.
So I'm studying MPhil in engineering for sustainable development, and my background was I was keen into sustainable development. The course, this particular course that I've applied for and I'm pursuing gives you an opportunity to actually study different subjects and courses from all the different domains that you can imagine. So I'm studying courses from engineering department, public policy department, and also a lot of courses from Judge Business School. So that gave me a really good chance. So as compared to I also look for similar courses around. So there was very limited courses like this, which give you so much of options, and so that you can actually study the way you want. So that's why I applied to Cambridge for that reason, and particularly to this course for the same reason. So yeah, that really helped me to decide. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Melany, what about you?
So I'll introduce myself very quickly first. I'm Melany. I'm a first year biological natural sciences student at John's. I'm from Hong Kong, but I did my A-levels in the UK. So I decided to come to the UK because the teaching system in Hong Kong and in the UK is very different. So I really enjoy the supervision aspect of Cambridge education, which I was not going to get in Hong Kong. And also I really wanted to broaden my horizons and be more independent. And I thought that studying abroad on my own would be a very good way of achieving that. And it turned out to be a good way of achieving that. So it worked out.
Well, I'm sorry, I realized I completely skipped introduction. So if you want to introduce yourself as well, while you answer that. We can't hear you.
Wait, can you hear me now? Yeah. So hi, I'm William. I'm from Luxembourg, learn also Spanish. And so I chose to go to the UK because it just really seemed like the educational system here, it was somewhere where I could really kind of flourish. And it kind of gave me a lot of liberty compared to another educational system where you really have to follow a course more closely. And I definitely think it was the right choice. I've really enjoyed it here.
Thank you.
Our next question is, how did you prepare for your application, and did you get much support from your school? So Vishal, do you want to start with that?
So once I've come across this course at Cambridge, I tried to reach out to a lot of Indian alumni, and that really helped me prepare for this course. How the course is all about, and what they look for, and what I will actually be able to get from this course, and all of that. So for me, that started with actually reaching out to alumni and talking to them, and then I was also the website, which the information that was available on the website was enough to understand it. And then the course administrator, they were really helpful. I mean, they were always available to answer your queries and questions regarding the application process, the course and everything. So all of these were really helpful for me to write the application. And
Melanie, I think you'd have more of an undergrad perspective. So if you want to tell us about yourself on that.
So I was very fortunate to be in a school where they really tried to help us with our applications, but there were quite a lot of students, so there's only so much that they could do. So what I did was I had admissions tests, I had NSAA for natural sciences, and what I did was I had some free resources online that were similar to past papers, but not really past papers because they were only like 2 or 3 years. And I just tried to do a lot of those. For stuff like personal statement, I kind of asked my friends to read them and gave me some opinions on where I could improve. And I think for interview, for example, there are a lot of free resources offered by university students. So for example, like Project Access or Slipstream Education, which reach out to maybe underprivileged students in all parts of the world and offered like interview help, and I signed up for those, and they were really, really helpful. And they were held by current students, so they have a very fresh idea of what interviews were like for them. So yeah, I would say make really good use of the free resources around you, as well as if you have any questions, reach out to the admissions team, and obviously ask your teachers for help.
I think relating to that, there's a question from the Q&A that says, how much time did you spend on the personal statement? So Will, do you want to start off with that?
So I think for the personal statement, the earlier you start is probably the better. So I think I started at some point in August having my first draft, because I think a lot of people realize this, that the first draft is really not going to look anything like what you send in the end. You're going to have to revise it so many times and go through so many drafts and drafts and drafts until you get your perfect personal statement. So I definitely say like start as early as you can, like even now, because it could take you a while to find the perfect personal statement.
Thank you. Melanie?
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. I think that before you begin, you should also have a pretty good idea of what you want to put in. So I would even start out writing like a general like bullet point of like what I want to have, what kind of stuff from my CV can I put in it, and then I would start. But yeah, I agree with Will that like now is a good time to start as well.
Thank you. Vishal?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I started 2 months ago, and yeah, so my friends and my professors were kind enough to help me through it. So first of all, I actually started with putting all the points that I have in my mind, writing my whole motivation story, and then try to improve it over the process. And having like letting my friends and my professor from university under my undergraduate university to go through it and find like how they're finding it. So they helped me a lot for in the process of making it better. So yeah, it was a 2 months process while I was working. So before coming to Cambridge, I was also working. So yeah, I was giving around 1 to 2 hours every day, like and sending across and getting reviews. Yeah, that was the process. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Matthias, if you have, as a director of studies, something to say about that.
Yes, so let me first introduce myself. Also, I came to Cambridge as an international student about 30 years ago, and I'm now a lecturer in mathematics here. But for the college, I'm also the director of scholarships and international programs. So I'm involved in also outreach work and talk to schools and so on. But as director of studies, I will have interviewed admissions applicants for 20 years now. So I've had, we'll have interviewed, hundreds or probably even thousands of applicants over these years. Personal statement. What do we actually want to see? Well, we want to see your enthusiasm for the subject. We want to see that, your excitement, and we want to see that you sort of can think for yourself. I think these are sort of the things we really want to see in a personal statement. And, honestly, it is a very good way for you to really give the interviewers guidance how to start the interview. What is most important about personal statement is it really is personal. It's got to be your personal statement, not your parents' personal statement or your teacher's personal statement, and make absolutely sure you can talk about what you say in your personal statement. And believe it or not, it happens very often that, pick things, interesting points in the personal statement. I pick these interesting things at interview, and people can't talk about those points, and that's of course not good. Make sure it really is your personal statement. It is important. As I said, it gives us sort of a way into the interview and to sort of really relate to your own interests. So yes, think about it, but obviously don't spend days and weeks and months on the personal statement. It's just one factor, and it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect in everything. But yeah, so make sure it is yours, and make sure it has to convey your enthusiasm for the subject.
Thank you. I'm sure that's really useful. Our next question is also a kind of technical question that I think Matthias will be able to answer better. Is it better to be interviewed by the international team or at a college? We also have a similar question in the Q&A. So.
Yeah, so I have a very strong view on that. So personally, I think it's always better to be interviewed by the people who actually take a decision on your application, and that's the team in the college in your subject you apply to. Some of you may actually not even know what the question means, because of course international team doesn't go everywhere in the world, so you only have access to the international interviewing team if you live in certain parts of the world. So university sends a team to Hong Kong, for example, to Singapore, to Shanghai, and a number of other places. I don't even know the whole list of places. And if you live around those places, then of course pre-pandemic you could be interviewed there in person by a team of interviewers. This team of interviewers will not necessarily be from your college. It's very unlikely they're actually from your college, and that team of interviewers sends a report to your college. Of course, pre-pandemic, I mean, it was quite useful to be interviewed then close to where you live, and you wouldn't have to travel to Cambridge. Now, of course, the interviews are all online, so it's actually quite easy to be interviewed by your own team in Cambridge. So my recommendation would be get interviewed by the people who actually take a decision on your application, and that will be the interviewers at the college you apply to. I don't know whether the students have any views about that and how you were interviewed. I don't know what decision you took.
I personally didn't know you could be interviewed by an international team, so but I mean, thank you so much for that answer.
Yeah, I do think that pre-pandemic actually coming to Cambridge, because I also didn't know that there was an international team, actually helped me get more motivated and more excited to actually go there afterwards. So if you have the means and the opportunity, maybe in person and in Cambridge would be the best way to go. Another question for Matthias is, how can we tell what the grade requirements are for our qualifications?
Well, there are, of course, on the Cambridge University website, Central Admissions Office, there are, of course, guidances published there. But again, here it's important to remember that it's a very personalized education system, and this already starts at the admission stage. And we, of course, look at every single applicant individually in the context of the applicants of background and education and so on. And even offer levels, will be decided individually by your actual team of interviewers that assesses your application. So what you see on the website are, of course, only sort of guides, and we may vary those because the offer levels we want to give you, of course we want the offer to sort of motivate you and not demotivate you. So we want to give you an offer that actually prepares you well for the course here, and it's really part of your preparation for the course. So yeah, you can find some guides for offer levels and grade requirements on the website, but always also talk to the admissions office if you have any further questions.
Okay, thank you. And another question, Matthias. As an international student applying with an American HS diploma, what are the most important academic factors for admissions, like APs or etc.?
Yeah, so in terms of qualifications, yes, we look at APs. That's right, and we typically want to see, say, 5 relevant APs at grade 5. But this is just one factor, and the much more important factors than tests is, of course, what we want to see, say, at interview, that you can think for yourself and you engage with us in exciting and sort of logical conversation about the things we ask you. So yes, grades are of course important, and they're an important factor, but obviously they're not the only factor. But yes, for US candidates, we like to look at APs. But we are also, if you don't have the possibility of taking APs, we are of course also prepared to look at other qualifications.
Thank you. Another one directed to you mostly is, are admissions tests different for international students? So I think for this one, it'd be nice to have Matthias's view, and then have everyone speak about how they prepared for their own admissions tests.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a clear answer to this. No, they're not different. I mean, the admissions tests are the same for everybody. I mean, worldwide, the tests are the same. So if you live somewhere else, you wouldn't have an extra section or something in the test. The tests are actually really the same, and the assessment process is the same. And obviously, the interviewing process is the same. Apart from, of course, what we said earlier, that in some areas of the world, people certainly pre-pandemic had the choice of being interviewed by the international team. That was sort of the only choice people had. But apart from that, everything else is really identical.
Thank you. Will, we have a specific question asking you how you prepared for the economics assessment. So do you want to start off with that?
Sure. So I did the ECAA soon to be 2 years ago. So what I did prepare was, I started in August. I did all the past papers that were available on the website. And the way it works is, and I wrote a few practice essays as well, because there's an essay part and sort of a maths part. And because there weren't that many past papers available, I also looked up other exams. Because I mean, on the internet, you'll find like millions of maths questions that are of a similar difficulty. So once I had seen past papers and knew what sort of questions came up, I could then broaden that and find questions from elsewhere that were similar, and I just did a lot of practice exams.
Thank you. Melany, do you want to talk about the NSAA?
Yeah, sure. So I did the NSAA around a year ago. I think it was late October that I did it. And again, same as well, there weren't a lot of past papers online available because I think it's relatively new. So what I did was, there's a syllabus online with like everything that they could possibly ask you about topics and stuff. So I just went through that and made sure that I understood everything. Don't worry too much about it, because it's actually not like very difficult knowledge, because they're not testing you knowledge, they're testing like quick thinking and like problem solving and stuff, because it's quite time pressured. And then after I made sure I understood everything, I did past papers. So I did some of the NSAA past papers, but I wanted to save one for maybe like the day before. And then I did some BMAT questions, because in BMAT there's a section that's multiple choice and it's kind of the same stuff. So that was a bit of extra practice. And then there are also some companies that provide like question banks. I borrowed mine off of a friend, so I didn't have to pay for it. So there were like maybe a couple hundred questions as well that I could go through. So that's for the MCQs. And then there's also a section of short answer questions. And I think for that, it's banking a lot on like problem solving while you're in the exam. So it's not too knowledge based. But again, I just did some practice, and I think maybe doing a few like puzzles to get your mind like warmed up before the exam, that would be helpful. But yeah, I just tried to find a lot of free resources and borrow questions from other exams.
Yeah, I think I did the same test as Melany, so I don't have much to add. The only thing was that there are many different sections, and I tried to decide which ones I would do way in advance so that I don't have to make a decision and lose time during the exam, which I definitely recommend. And also because I didn't do A levels, so some things in the syllabus I hadn't covered yet. So I just found Googling them quite easy, and then just try to get my head around some stuff that I might not have covered at school.
Cool, thank you. I think we have a number of questions about admissions and applying to St. John's. One of the questions that's kind of sort of repeated is, how confident were you applying to an oversubscribed college, or is it harder to get into St. John's compared to other colleges? I don't know, Melany, for instance, you want to talk about the admissions process in that respect?
I don't know, I feel like every college is oversubscribed. Like obviously at every college you would have more applications than offers made. So it's obviously for example, I think Trinity have a very large number of maths applicants. And so in Trinity, the ratio of successful applications are much lower compared to say like other smaller colleges. But I think John's is actually quite average in terms of successful applications. I think for natural sciences, it was like 1 in 4 or 5, which is pretty similar to other colleges. So I didn't feel particularly disadvantaged applying to John's. And I think you just have to have a general mindset of like doing the best that you can, and not think too much about the ratios, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It's really up to your application and whether you showcase your passion well enough and your ability to learn. So I would think that it's not actually that big of a deal whether a college is oversubscribed. Just try your best.
Vishal, is there anything you would like to add, or Matthias?
Yeah, can I add something? So if it was a random process, then of course this ratio would be very important to look at, the success ratio. But obviously it's not a random process, and your passion and your motivation and so on, where they can think for yourself. These are sort of the most important factors probably. And what makes you successful with these factors is that it's a good mutual match. So, look at the college, look at the people that teach there. Can you relate to those people? Because these are the ones who will interview you. And, whether what is offered at the college, fits to your needs. So personally, I think you will be most successful at the place where, it's the best mutual match, really. So I wouldn't look too much at just these ratios. And also keep in mind that, of course, most of you will have heard of our winter pool. So if at the end of the sort of admissions round, we have filled our places, but we have a number of applicants who believe they should be in Cambridge, but we don't have space anymore, then we will put them in what we call the winter pool. And there are quite a lot of colleges also out there. They will wait to see which applications we and some other colleges put into the winter pool. So if you just look at these ratios, they may actually be misleading, because a lot of colleges actually don't give all their places to applicants to their own college. And that's something you will not see in these ratios. So, you know, if you just look at that ratio, it may seem that it's easy to get into that particular college. But if you then take into account that perhaps half of the places are being given to applicants to other colleges, then maybe the ratio doesn't look so good anymore.
Thank you for that. Also, just to mention that applications and the numbers do vary quite a lot from year to year. So it's not necessarily a useful measure because there's quite a lot of fluctuation in that. Moving on, we have a couple of questions about starting out at uni and moving in. The first one being, how did you find moving abroad and starting university? So Will, do you want to start off with that?
Wait, sorry, could you repeat? I'm really sorry.
Yeah, sorry. It's how did you find moving abroad and starting uni?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm from Luxembourg, so I didn't really go that far, but I found that moving abroad, I really loved the experience. It gave me so much independence that I didn't really have at home when I lived with my parents. I could suddenly choose what I wanted to do at any time of the day, every day. And yeah, so it is a little bit scary because I really didn't know anyone at the university at all. I was really starting with a blank sheet, but at the end of the day, it was super enjoyable, and I really miss it now that I'm back home.
Thank you. How about Melany?
So I traveled from Hong Kong to Cambridge to start my university, and I think the biggest thing that was very anxiety-inducing for me was because of COVID as well. My flights were being cancelled and rescheduled, and it was very annoying. But I think what helped was having a plan of like every step of how I would get to Cambridge. So I was gonna get to the airport and then maybe get this certain train and then get an Uber to my college because the train station is quite far. So it helped to have a really good plan of every step of the way. And then when I got to university, it was kind of smooth sailing from there. Obviously, I had some obstacles, but people were really willing to help. So I just reached out loads to student services and just like other freshers are also very willing to help. And everyone is very like kind of desperate to make friends. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. Like everyone wants to chat with you. Everyone wants to, especially if you're an international student, a lot of people would be very curious to like, oh, where are you from? Like, how was it like in Hong Kong? So it was also a very enjoyable experience for me. And there are some things that I had to learn to deal with on my own. So like a lot of like, for example, registering for a GP, I had to learn how to do that. But again, there's a lot of help available if you just ask. And when you overcome these challenges, it's a really good feeling. So yeah, I would recommend studying abroad. It's a good experience.
Thank you. What about Vishal?
For me, I mean, like before coming to Cambridge for 3 months, I was like totally uncertain whether I'll be able to reach Cambridge or not because of the COVID restrictions and all. But yeah, definitely, it really like all the process and everything. It was really clear from by talking to people and the clear instructions given by the college about for every stage that you need to go through and how to reach Cambridge, what we can do to settle in, what all we need to do for getting a bank account. For all the documents were already available for that, and getting a GP done, registered, and all of that. So after settling in, there were a lot of people to meet. There were a lot of events that really helped us to meet the people from different countries, from different backgrounds. Even in my course team itself, we had in-person classes and met them. So yeah, that really helped us, me as in for settling in, knowing people, making good friends, going out. And then we have like, again, we stay in a particular staircase where there are a lot of people, and that really helped me. And a lot of them are from UK and from Cambridge. They studied their undergrads in Cambridge. They really helped me through how things work in UK and as in like in Cambridge itself. So yeah, that was really helpful.
Thank you, Vishal. I think our next question is, what logistical things do you need to think about?
Should I start? I think one of the massive logistical things was how much luggage I could carry on the airline. Because there's always a limit as to like the weight of your luggages, and luckily I had my mom with me, so we could both carry like 2 people's worth of suitcases. But just make sure that you really know clearly what the weight limit, or if there's a size limit to your luggage. As well, if you have any connecting flights, it might be different for different flights. And yeah, so I would really just like call the airlines, make sure, and also like make sure you know what you can and what you can bring. So because of COVID, my mom really wanted me to bring like hand sanitizer and stuff. Make sure that you can bring that on your flight, and whether it needs to be in your handheld luggage or like in the luggage that you drop off. So just really make sure about this, because it's really annoying when you get to the airport and you have to pay like extra fees or like rearrange your luggage, and it really just like makes you even more stressed. So I would say that's a massive thing. And also when you get to the UK, if you need to like register with the police or register with a GP, just get all of those things out of the way as soon as possible. Yeah, I think that if you reach out to like student services and ask them, is there anything I need to do as an international student, they'll be really happy to maybe give you a list of stuff.
Vishal, do you have anything to add?
I would like recommend the same thing, whether like, when you are traveling, make sure that you're traveling light and only carrying the relevant stuff, because you get everything over here in Cambridge. When from whichever country you're coming from, you get all the stuff that you need. So make sure that you're carrying all the relevant stuff. And although the airlines actually help you, I help all the students in India carry extra luggage when they're actually moving to university, which is really helpful. But there's no need of carrying heavy. Uh, 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 After that's it. I mean, like, once I came to Cambridge, porters were really helpful, that they actually showed me the way. They helped me carry the luggage to my room, and that was really that really helped me settling in. Also during, like, I was actually quarantining for like 14 days. I was in quarantine for that period, so that was really like very frustrating for me, because I've like moving to a different country, staying in a room. But then, yeah, there were a lot of facilities for us to actually help us through all this process. There were like a lot of Zoom calls available for us to talk to the counselor and stuff, and if you're feeling really low and bad. And there were a lot of people around me that was really helpful. Like they were really ready to help me if I need any stuff or so. So yeah, so that was the whole thing of settling in was really smooth for me. But yeah, because of the, like, help that was available. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I think your internet died, but we're answering the question of what logistical things do you need to think about when moving to the UK. I don't know if you have anything to add to that from your experience.
No, I think those covered it quite well. Yeah, I didn't really have any sort of huge issue that other students might not have had. I think there's definitely so many people do it every year that like there's systems and it works generally quite well for everyone.
Thank you. Anna Maria, you're muted.
Thank you. Our next question is mostly for Matthias. It's, what visa do I need to come to the UK and how do I get it?
Well, most of our students would be on a tier 4 student visa. And I say most because, depending on your personal circumstances and so on, there may be some, some of our students will be on slightly different visa types. But yeah, most of our students will be on tier 4 student visa. And what you will need for this is a sponsorship letter that will be issued by the university's international office. And that will be issued as soon as your offer has been confirmed. And then with this letter, you can go to your British High Commission or consulate, and you get your visa.
Thank you. Now, In the next set of questions are mostly about academic life and studying at St. John's as an international student. The first question is kind of the broader question, and I think we've definitely touched upon this, but what is it like studying abroad? Will, do you want to start?
So as I sort of touched on before, like it's studying in the UK particularly, you have so much like academic freedom. You can really explore the things that really interest you, which is it's really something I loved, and it's not something I would have been able to do to that extent if I had chosen to do university at home. And also, I mean, I think the UK, like, it really has some top tier universities where you get professors from all over the world, really like some of the leading people in every field at Cambridge. And something I think that's really, really important about Cambridge is that since we've got supervisions, you really have sometimes even one-on-one, but often two-on-one or three-on-one sessions with the people who are really at the front of the field and can really explain things in such an amazing way. I think that's such a benefit that Cambridge has, and yeah, so that's why I chose to come to the UK, and I'm really glad I did.
Melany?
Yeah, so my experience is quite similar to Will in terms of like there just wasn't this sort of supervision academic structure in Hong Kong. And also the Cambridge degree of natural sciences is a lot more flexible than science degrees back in Hong Kong, because in natural sciences you can basically choose modules from biology, chemistry, and physics. And I know people who do one from each science, whereas in Hong Kong it's very strict of like, oh, you do biology, or you do chemistry, or you do physics separately. So that's very different from how it is back home. Another thing I would say is that you have to learn to be independent at the same time as during your degree, which you wouldn't have to do to the same extent maybe back home. And it could be a bit daunting at first, but you learn very quickly of like how to organize your room, how often do I need to do laundry, how to feed myself, how to have like a nutritious meal. So yeah, I would say that you probably have to think of, like, it's not just academics, like you do have to think of like other things. But it's a steep learning curve that you get over very quickly and that you benefit from afterwards.
Thank you, Melany. Vishal?
Yeah, thank you. I think something that I really liked about studying abroad is that, like, and especially at Cambridge, as because in India, if you are choosing one particular field, you have to study all of that. But over here, you have the liberty to choose the module that you want. You can actually design the course in whichever way you want to study. For me, like there were like more than 30 plus modules that I can choose from. So that was really, really interesting for me, so that I can design the way I want to study and go ahead with it. Secondly, the international experience that I get. There are like more than like I mentioned, like we have 28 people in my course, and they're like from different countries, and the kind of experience that they bring to the table while having discussions, that's something that I really liked over here. I mean, like it actually broadens your perspective and make you think, and you learn the best practices around the world, and that is something I wanted to come to Cambridge for, and I'm getting it over here. So which is like a really good thing for me, which I really liked about Cambridge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So our next question is, what's it like studying in a foreign language? And is there any support for English as a foreign language? Melany, do you want to start off with that?
Sure. So I was very lucky to be educated in English for secondary school onwards. So I struggled a little bit, but probably not as much as some international students. The first thing I would say is that supervisors are very willing to kind of simplify language for you if you don't understand. And there's always Google, there's always dictionary, so you might find it a bit difficult and a bit like laborious to have to Google things often when you begin, but it's a very good way of learning the language because you're applying what you learn like very frequently. And so I think that it's not like a hindrance, not having perfect English, and it's actually a really good learning opportunity as well. Like people around you, your kind of course mates from the UK, they're very willing to teach you words or like explain stuff to you. No one's gonna laugh at you for not speaking the Queen's English, so it's really not an issue.
Thank you. What about Will?
So similarly, I went to school in English, so I didn't really have any issues with that. But one thing I did notice was that even for home students or students who grew up here, because the way of academic writing is so different to some of the things they've done before, even for them, they still have to learn how to do that, and they might have sort of bad habits that they might go to, which as an international student, you might not have. So I guess it can be a bit difficult for everyone. But yeah, I didn't really struggle more than the usual with that. I thought it was all right.
Thank you. What about Vishal?
I started. I did my schooling in English medium, and even my undergrad was like the medium of the education was English itself. But the kind of English that we have speak in English in India is very basic. But after coming to UK, I found that it's like the kind of English we speak over here, it's very heavy in vocabulary. So, but then there were a lot of resources which are available. With the university, we have a language learning center, and then we have like a lot of resources available by Department of Engineering that can actually help you with all your presentation skills, writing skills, and all of that, how you speak, how you can actually improve it. So, which is like the kind of resources that are available with the university and with the department was really, really helpful for me to improve myself. Yeah.
Thank you. I think Paula, you also have some interesting things to say about this.
Yeah, I actually took the Cambridge Longwood Centre course on English literacy for my essays because I do a humanities-based subject. And so it's an essay-based subject, sorry, and I sort of felt like I needed it because I did the Spanish baccalaureate, and I found it really helpful. It's an English literacy for academic writing kind of course, and they're incredibly helpful. So I would really recommend, and I generally think there are plenty of resources for you, and also your director of studies, your tutors or your supervisors will be really understanding if you're an international student. So yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about English not being your first language. The next question we have is, how did you find the workload? Will, I don't know if you want to start with this one or...
Sure. So the workload at Cambridge is quite intense, and that it's quite intense for any course that you do. But what I found that really helped me kind of manage my time and figure it out was that it's really intense for everyone. So you're surrounded by people who also have a lot of work to do, and so you can, together with them, really kind of make the most of any free time you have. And there's so many things to do in your free time that there is a lot of work. So like I'm sure anyone can confirm that, but people make it work because everyone's kind of in the same boat.
Melany, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I agree that every degree is very labor intensive in Cambridge and very demanding. I think the biggest thing that helped me was to stop being a perfectionist, because I was a very bad perfectionist before. But it's like at this point you just have to get stuff done and just hand it in and stop like spending hours over a single thing. Like after a certain point, like even if you spend 10 more hours, it's not going to get any better. Just hand it in. Your time is better spent doing other stuff that would help you. So I think that's something that I learned very harshly. And also have very good time management and don't put things off, don't procrastinate.
Vishal?
Yeah, thank you. I think time management is the key over here. You have the schedule of all the things that you need to do, especially all the deadlines that you have on the course structure, how the classes are going to be in the very first week of the course. When I started over here, we were told about all of that, so it was really helpful for me to manage. But yeah, things like because there are a lot of things to do in Cambridge, so you kind of actually go out of line and you actually mismanage things. But then yeah, over the time you learn within like it took me like 1 or 2 months to get used to it, but then yeah, you learn really quickly once you get used to the process. So yeah, that was really helpful.
Yeah, just to bounce off that, I think it's really important to know that every student has a personal tutor and a director of studies. And if you ever struggle with time management issues or workload is a problem for you, you can reach out to them and they'll be happy to give you advice or help you out with your organizing your time or time management and how can you handle the workload or really any issues you may encounter throughout your time at Cambridge. So I think that's worth bearing in mind. The next set of questions are mostly about social life at Cambridge. The first question is, how can you meet and how did you guys meet other international students? Will, do you want to start with your perspective?
Sure. So, I mean, you'll meet international students just by sort of bumping into them around the college. There's quite a few, but I'm a member of both the Luxembourg Society and the Spanish Society, and I've been going to their events, and I find it really useful actually to have kind of people who shared a background with me, and we could just talk and get to know each other. And so yeah, there's societies for all sorts of backgrounds. So yeah, so there's hundreds of different societies. A lot of them are kind of national societies. So for example, there's a French society for people who come from France or who have an interest in France. So through those, you can really meet a lot of international students.
Melany?
So for me, I'm a part of the Hong Kong Society, and so they always have events and stuff with Hong Kong people, which was quite fun and helpful. And before term started, actually, the uni-wide International Student Society actually held like a fun challenge thing where you get put into teams of 4 with international students of different backgrounds, different colleges, different degrees, and you kind of do like weekly challenges, Zoom calls. So that was really fun, and it made me a couple of friends. And I would say that even like people in your own course, a lot of them would be international students. Like I had a couple of international students in my college doing my course, and so it was quite nice chatting to them. So I would say that it's actually really easy to find other international students and really easy to find international students from your own background. So I wouldn't worry about it.
What about you, Vishal?
So I think that really helped me was like the activities and event that was organized by the college committees that really helped us actually meet other international students and understand their background and yeah, learn a lot from them. Then there are a lot of other societies that we have within college itself and by the student union that we have in our college university. That really helped us, like like I was a part of 2 communities and clubs over here, and that really helped me with to interact with international students and make friends with them. Later, like in my course, we have like once you start your course, you have 3 days of a field visit where you go to the Wales and stay there together with your course team with the other students for 3 days, and learn something new, and then you also interact with them, have a lot of fun, and that's how you actually get to know each other within the course team itself. So that all of these really helped me to make international friends, international students as friends, and yeah, and know them. Thank you.
Thank you for your answers. Just a couple more things to add. There's an International Freshers Week at Johns in late September and in other colleges, which is just for internationals to kind of just meet each other and settle into the UK before everyone else arrives. So that's also a nice way to meet other people. And we also have a question about cultural and religious societies. So I did also want to add that there are also religious societies at Cambridge that you can get involved with in the same way as country societies, pretty much. We have another question for Matthias, which is, are there many other international students?
Yes, so we have among undergraduates, we've got 25% of our undergraduates are from outside the UK. So that's actually quite a large international community. I mean, you would always expect that among undergraduates, your majority would be British students, but 25% is actually a large international community. Among graduate students, 70% of our postgraduate students are international students. So here it's a very large in the international community.
Thank you. So our next set of questions is about support and logistics. The first question is, how does accommodation work and what happens over the summer? I suppose it refers to storage. Anna Maria, I think you're well suited to answer this if you want.
Yeah, so accommodation wise, during term time, you get a room. It's in college if you're in first year, and then for second years it works with a ballot, and you can either get a room in college or in a house off-site. Then over the summer, you can also stay in college. If you can't go home or have a placement in Cambridge, there is an application system through which you can get a room in college. The rest of the internationals can store their stuff in college, so you have access to 3 big boxes that go in John's and stay there for the summer. If you need anything more, you can always get sort of external storage or dump everything on a friend that lives nearby. So that's about it. Does anyone have something to add for that? In that case, another question for Matthias is, what support is available for international students, both pastorally and financially?
So if you look at the pastoral support in the college, I mean, we have quite a lot of pastoral support available through your tutor or the dean of chapel or the chaplain, health center, counselors, and JCR has also support structures. So there's a lot of pastoral support available within the college, and international students access the same pastoral support environment just like home students as well. And I think it actually would be wrong to have, say, one tutor that would just be there for international students. We want to integrate international students in the same way as home students within the same support system in the college. And it was mentioned several times already, if you have any problems, there's a lot of help there, and talk to your tutor. And yeah, so I think there's actually no need for a special pastoral or welfare system for international students. Financial support, when you think about financial support, I think it's important to think about 2 things. Obviously, you may rely on scholarships to come here and to study here, and to pay your fees and maintenance and all this. And we have financial support packages or scholarships, for different parts of the world. So depending where you're from, look at our website, look at the university website, and see what is available, for your area in the world or for your citizenship. But that's about scholarships. But then, once you are here, there are a lot of extra things, extra opportunities. I mean, Anna Maria just talked about, say, if you have a placement, for example, here in the summer, we run some internship programs, and they're funded by the college. So innovation internship program with the St. John's Innovation Center, the company's renting space there from us. And again, this is just one example. Then, you might want to do a research project, or you might need to buy a computer or books, or when you're here, or lots of other things. So when you think about finances, don't just think about a scholarship that takes you and pays your fees. You know, you also need to think about other education opportunities you want to take part in. And again, here we have, so you know, scholarships, that depends on where you're from and citizenship. But you know, once you're here, we have quite a lot of, you know, grants and bursaries every student can apply for. And again, there's no difference between international students and home students. So we have a learning research fund that can pay for books and computers and also conferences. Then I mentioned the innovation internships. We've got a fund that you can apply for research projects in the summer, even travel projects and so on. So it's important that you really think through, you know, people very often focus just on the scholarship side, but you also look at, you know, the funding that is available once you are here.
Thank you. I think that was really useful. To finish the panel, we have some general questions. The first one being, what is the biggest challenge as an international student at St. John's? I don't know who wants to get started. Will?
I don't really think I didn't really find being an international student to be a challenge. Like I found that obviously Cambridge is challenging, and it's challenging for everyone, no matter where you come from. But being an international student really just meant that I had to store my stuff over the summer. And I mean, because of COVID, it was kind of difficult to fly home and all of that. But I don't think you're in any way disadvantaged by being an international student. It's not a challenge above what everyone else has to face.
Melany, do you have a similar perspective or a different view?
I agree that it's not more challenging, but I think we have different challenges. For example, I think that we get the advantage of learning to be very independent and solving our own problems. But with that comes, like, maybe at first you would feel a bit helpless or a bit lost. And you would obviously feel homesick. I felt very homesick. So I think to solve that, if you have problems, obviously reach out to your tutors. I had a really good tutor that was always willing to help me, and I'm sure that everyone had really good tutors. And with being homesick, I think I tried to call home quite often, and I tried to meet up with other international students in Cambridge, because we were all quite homesick, and just tried to maybe cook food from home, or try to yeah, like, I enjoy our time together in Cambridge. And I think what really helped me as well was to find, like, really fun stuff to do in Cambridge. So then I didn't have the energy to be homesick, and I also felt like maybe I belonged here, or like that I enjoyed being here. So yeah, I would say that being homesick is probably a quite universal challenge that you'll be able to get over.
Thank you. What about you, Vishal?
I think, like, you know, when I came to Cambridge, I was like totally prepared for what I have to, like, what I'll be going through. But then, yeah, it went smooth for me. Nothing was like as challenging as nothing that I've never thought of. But then something that was like really challenging was like studying and shifting your, you know, the way you study to COVID ways. I mean, like, because of the COVID restriction, things went online for a while. Yeah, so that was like a bit of challenging for me during the Lent term. But then over the time, I got used to it. Yeah, so yeah.
Thank you. Another question we have is, what is something you wish you'd known before coming to John's as an international student? Do you want to start off with that, Will?
Yeah. So something I wish I'd known. I had a bit of a fear that it was going to be really difficult to connect with people being an international student, having a sort of a different background. I was very scared. Oh, am I going to find things to talk about with home students and whatever? And so if I could go back and tell myself something, I'd say, like, it's going to be fine. Everyone's really in the same boat. Everyone's super excited to meet new people. You definitely shouldn't sort of be scared to go and talk to someone because you're an international student or not. There's really everyone, like Freshers Week is just such an amazing time because you can literally just walk up to anyone at all and introduce yourself and start a conversation, and really become friends in 5 minutes. So yeah, I would kind of reassure myself a bit if I could go back, that it was all going to work out and people are going to be really, really friendly.
Thank you, Melany.
Something that I wish I knew was that college is actually quite well equipped to deal with international students. So, for example, my tutor tutored a lot of international students before, so he could absolutely like relate to my experience, like not relate to my but understand my experience, and you know, like offer solutions to my problems. And he even like introduced me to quite a few like very Hong Kong things around Cambridge. And another thing was that yeah, people are absolutely so friendly and really willing to teach you about UK culture. If there are like jokes you don't understand, they're very willing to explain it to you. They even like, I think they get a joy out of explaining stuff to you. My friend was obsessively telling me about ABBA, which is a very UK thing, I feel like. So don't worry at all. People are very well equipped to deal with international students. So yeah.
Thank you, Vishal.
I think like the one thing I really think that I should have known was like the career cycle that starts in October to January when you enter the college. That becomes really so for someone who's come for a 1-year course, it's important to know, like, you know, when the job that you're actually going to apply start in September. It has a job cycle back in October to January, and which was I was not prepared for. So this is something that I wanted to know. And secondly, like the kind of support that Cambridge has for every student, and especially St. John's College has for all the students, it is really like something that I really never imagined and never have received back in India. You know, how the kind of support that we have, whether it is about the financial support or being pastoral support that we get from the tutors and the college staff and our course at director and principal supervisor, something that I've received over the past 10 months. It is very they've been very supportive throughout, and which really helped me, you know, go through this challenging year. And now I'm at the end of my course. I'm really helpful that about and really happy that I chose to come to Cambridge. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And just one final question to finish the panel and to end on a sort of happy note. What is the best thing about being an international student? Will, do you want to get started with what the best thing is about being an international student?
So I found being an international student, like it, in a way, it kind of actually helped me in my course doing economics, because I had a bit of a more international perspective, I guess I could say. So like I knew, for example, about political systems all over the world, and I mean, part of economics is it's very international. So I found that in that sense, I was almost a bit better prepared for the course than someone who had just been in the educational system of one country and really kind of a bit of a more focused educational system. So that's what that was kind of my experience with that.
Melany, what about you?
So for me, the best thing was learning about a lot of different cultures, a lot of different like perspectives, because I come from Hong Kong, which is not a very racially or culturally diverse place. And here I get international students from all over the world, different countries, and even home students, a lot of them are from different cultural backgrounds. So that really helped me broaden my horizons as to like how it's like the traditions of different cultures. Like I felt very ignorant coming into the Cambridge because there was so much that I didn't know about other people's way of living. But everyone is really willing to teach you about it, and you get to also teach people about your own culture, which I also really enjoyed doing. So I think that was the best part about being in a really international environment.
What about you, Vishal?
Yeah. I think I will like agree to Melany that, you know, the kind of international experience and like the thing that you get to learn about different cultures and the country. So for example, like, you know, so in our discussion groups in my course, we discuss a lot of problems and issues in global south, and, you know, we are studying sustainable development over here, and the kind of issue that kind of solution that other countries are applying to actually come off, you know, to overcome the problems that they have. It's like the kind of knowledge that you get over here from the people, their background, and especially, you know, living in a house with people from different countries, you eat different foods, you get to know about their culture, and it is really, really interesting and very, very. I'm pretty happy about, like, you know, like the kind of experience I've got here as an international student, the kind of knowledge that I acquired as an international student. So yeah, it's really great for me.
Thank you so much for your answers. That was the last question we had. Just to point you to the St. John's College Instagram, where we've also been answering questions all day. There are some questions that we might not have touched on as much, like interviews. So definitely go see there. Thank you very much to our panelists and to everyone who attended.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.